Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Klingberg Wing Mark II development. I'm Ron Klingberg, your host. You may not have seen me here for a while. Been busy in the shop. Uh, as you know, I've been making, or you may not know, I've been making final modifications to my wing based on the last set of successful test flights. The modifications that we had at that time were temporary, and because the glider flew reasonably well, I'm making those changes permanent so we can go out and do some more extensive flight testing and get the flight envelope opened up a bit. And I thought I'd give you an update on where those changes are. So the old Elevon spar used to be out in here, right about up in here. And then it tapered down towards the root end. So I've completely removed those spars, removed the old Elevons and the spar that went with them. So that was 5 pounds worth of stuff there for the Elevon and the spars, quite a bit. And I have this flat plate Elevon back here. And if you've been watching the videos, you understand why it's a flat plate. This is almost flat. It's 3/4 of an inch thick here at the leading edge, and it tapers down to essentially zero here. So it's just a triangle. And these Elevons are in the same position as the old ones, but I made these a foot shorter. When we were out last time, they're about 10 feet long, really quite sensitive, had a lot of control power. So I shortened them by 1 foot by lopping off this end and moving the Elevon outboard. So it's essentially the same as taking a foot off of the root end of the Elevon. I hope that impacts the elevator function significantly and the aileron function only slightly. We'll see what happens. Another thing that I did that you're not going to see it here, but I've moved the control horn from the root end of the Elevon to the midpoint on the Elevon, and that'll help distribute the loads, and that'll be much better. So we're lighter and hopefully stronger, I think. The changed the ribs because I took out the old spar way up in here. I had to extend the ribs back and create a new spar. That was really hard. It was much harder than I ever anticipated. Um, Without having the original jig, really hard to get these ribs aligned. I thought for a moment about just taking the ribs off all the way up to the spar, but then I have issue with the cap strips and how they're bonded onto the spar. So I thought it best to keep as much of the rib as I could and then extend it back and put on new cap strips. But in the process, of course, I had to splice the cap strips. And that means for the wood strip that's there, I got to put a doubler on it, top and bottom, and get it all bonded together so they're at least as strong, if not stronger. And then, of course, that makes a little bump in the wing, and then I had to finagle around to kind of smooth those out, make everything nice and even. It's not perfect, but the bumps they're not significant, really. It's more of a cosmetic issue than anything. But it was a lot of work, especially when it came to aligning the ribs, because the rib can be out of alignment this way in yaw, it can be out of alignment in pitch, it can be out of alignment in roll. And getting all of those lined up simultaneously was hard. I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. But all done on the left wing. The left wing is the first one to be completed. And I have the same work that's about half done on the right wing. So the right wing should go much faster. Another thing that I've done is create all new or build all new outer panels. This is outboard of the winglet mount. And they're lighter by about a pound and hopefully just as strong. And we'll be load testing them to make sure that that's true. But they're definitely lighter. And hopefully that will help in two ways. It will decrease the yaw moment of inertia, and the yaw moment of inertia is crucial for yaw damping. So the lower you can keep the yaw moment of inertia, the better your damping is in yaw. And we like yaw that's well damped. And what else is supposed to do for you? Let's see. Well, they're nice and shiny and bright and new looking. That's always a good thing. Anyway, so those are done. Anyway, and forward of the spar, same as it was before. Inboard of the Elevon, all the same as it was before. No changes there. And one of the issues I had to deal with was the hinging of the Elevon. Last time we were out, I was using a bi-directional fiberglass tape. I'm sure you've seen the unidirectional stuff because you get a hold of some of it. and discovered you always have to have scissors with it because you can't tear it with your hands or your teeth or anything. You gotta have scissors or a knife. And they make a bidirectional version of that that's wide. And I was using that last time we were out and discovered it has almost no resistance to UV. In just a matter of months, it disintegrated into next to nothing. But considering it was a temporary setup, it was fine. We're okay with that. And the hinging methodology I was using for that was not terrific. It was good enough for some temporary tests. When we were out testing, my buddy Dan didn't like how the end of the elevon was flexing right where the control horn was because of the poor hinging methodology. And he went in and put in some S hinges, and they worked great. So what I've done here is I found a new tape. First of all, new tape. And I looked up sail tape because I know that they use sail tape or used sail tape to hold the sail onto the Millennium. And that was like a permanent installation. So sail tape's pretty darn strong. I went shopping for sail tape and found out a relatively small roll is $60. I would have needed 2 rolls to hinge the 2 elevons. And $60 seems like a lot of money to hinge an elevon. So I found this stuff. And let me see, I can bring this in a little bit closer. Where are we here? Where are we? I found this stuff, and it's called awning tape. And it's designed specifically for repairing fabric awnings. And so it's meant to be outdoors. It's waterproof, it's UV proof, and it's phenomenally sticky and strong. Unbelievable, this stuff. Sometimes I get just my fingertips stuck to it. I got to pull hard to get them off. It's a very rubberized adhesive, much like what you would find on duct tape. And it's first time I've seen this tape, it's really neat stuff, so long as you don't want to remove and replace it all the time, because removing is difficult. You need either heat or chemicals, and you got to be careful so you don't ruin your substrate. So once it's on there, it's semi-permanent, but it can be removed. And the reason I stuck with tape is because any mechanical hinging system that I put in here would be permanent. And there's some that are very lightweight, but they're permanent, and you can't remove the elevon then without cutting into the structure. Or I could use piano hinge, where I could pull the pin out and then remove the elevon. But then the mechanism is still embedded in the wing. It's in there permanently. I need versatility on an experimental aircraft, and that means being able to remove stuff. So I stuck with tape. Now this tape, like the other one, has bi-directional fiberglass in it. It runs both directions. Fiberglass runs this way and the other way. So it's tear-proof in both directions. The adhesive, super strong, sticks to just about any substrate. I have fabric on here, and I have very smooth Oracal 651. Sticks like gangbusters to either one of them. Okay. So what I did is I created a series of S hinges, and you won't be able to see them here, but I have some out here in sets of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, alternating. Forward, aft, forward, aft. And there's 4, let's see, what do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 hinging locations. That's the actual hinge itself. And at where the control horn attaches, I have 3 hinges on one side, 3 on the other side. Very stable. This thing does not wobble up and down. And this is set up for 30 degrees up and down elevon, which should be plenty. I shouldn't ever use more than 20. So plenty of margin there. When we were out flying last time, I probably didn't use more than 5 degrees. So it should be great. Now, of course, with this type of hinging method, you can end up with a gap here between the elevon and the wing. And I dealt with that by taking a layer of this tape. After the S hinges were set up on here, I put a layer of this tape over the top. That seals up the gap and helps hold down the S hinges. So far, it's working great. I've had it on here a couple days. Hasn't been out in the sun, but I think it'll be fine. Really nifty stuff. There'll be a link that you can click on in the description down below. It tells you where to buy this stuff. It'd be good for many things other than just aircraft work like this. Gosh, you use this just about anywhere. It's on Amazon. It's like $10 a roll. Such a deal. And the other thing that I should note about this, beyond the bi-directional stuff, anyway, probably not going to show up on my stupid phone anyway. Nope, I'm not going to get there. But It has a release liner on the inside right here that you peel off when you're ready to stick it down. And don't stick it down unless you're absolutely certain. And dickens of a time getting it off. It does come off fairly well with a hair dryer or heat gun, low temperature heat gun, and then quite a bit of pulling. But above the adhesive and fiberglass, there's a very thin layer of aluminum, and I think that's how they keep it UV proof. They're protecting the adhesive and the other substrates from UV exposure. It's completely blacked out with aluminum foil. And then on the very outside, they have an off-white plastic covering, and I suspect that's additional UV protection and gives you a really nice final surface finish. Okay, great stuff. So all the modifications are done on the wing. I've moved the control horn out, extended the cables, a little different push rod setup, not much different, a little bit different, and extended the ribs, did all that, shortened the elevon by a foot, and right now I'm working on the winglet mount here. You can see that it's all ground up and so forth. The old winglet mounts had been modified several times to do various jobs and or test different configurations, and they had a rough life. So I'm grinding off the old covering. Some of the fiberglass is being left behind. When I get this all cleaned off, I'll put on one fresh layer of 1.5 ounce fiberglass. And this time around, rather than Monaco covering or any of the other iron-on coverings, I'll probably just paint them. I'll probably fill it with Spot Buddy, sand them relatively smooth, and then just paint them. I found some great Rust-Oleum appliance paint. Rust-Oleum white appliance paint takes several days to dry completely, but once it's dry, it's really good stuff, pretty tough, easy to apply. Let me see if I can grab a can of it over here. Do I have a can over here? No, I don't have a can over here right now. Sorry. It's a green and white and black can, available on Amazon. I'll put a link in for that also. If you are using it, make sure that your first coat is really dry before you put a second one on. If it has any volatiles left in it, the volatiles will come up out of that and into the new layer and vice versa, and you'll get just a bunch of wrinkles. It'll just all crack and wrinkle up on you. It's horrible. So make sure that it's really ready for a second coat. And I would recommend that you do a sample first. Just grab a piece of wood or plastic or something and spray it. Wait until you think it's dry, then spray it again. And don't put the coats on too heavy, and you can avoid the wrinkling problem. Be good to go pretty soon. My goal is to be ready by the end of March, which gives me 1 month. I doubt I'm going to make that because of family considerations and everything else, plus my normal winter illnesses. The right wing, main body of the right wing, the main wing panel is about 5/8 done right now. All of the ribs have been extended, and it has the new trailing edge on it, but that's really only about half the work because I got to move the bell crank out and extend the cables, put on all new covering. So it's a bit of work. Once I've done this one and figured out all the processes for doing it, it should go much faster on the other one. And the right wing tip panel on the other side is probably only about half done, maybe a little less than half done. So there's at least 2 weeks worth of work to finish this tip panel on the right side, and 2 or 3 weeks of work to do to finish the main panel. So sometime in April, I should be ready to go. Hopefully, El Mirage will have dried out by then, maybe cross my fingers, and I'll have the glider ready to go, and the temperatures won't be, soaring up to 115 degrees during the day. We hope to have some days where we get in many test flights and really expand the flight envelope. And I hope you stick around to see that. I think it's going to be quite exciting. Anything else I need to tell you about this? Well, if you have any other questions, just put them in the comments. I'll be glad to answer them. It's always fun. And we're here at the end of the month, and I just want to repeat that if it wasn't for my patrons, this wouldn't happen. The amount of money that comes in here goes right back into the glider. So if it wasn't for you guys, probably wouldn't be happening. It'd either be the glider or my wife, and that'd be a really difficult choice. No, I mean, that's an easy choice. I choose my wife, right? That's the correct answer. Uh, anyway, so once again, end of the month, my thanks to you, and please stick in there with me. I think we're going to see some amazing flights coming up. And as I always say, fly safe and bye for now.